everyone. Welcome back to the Organizing to Victory podcast, where we're talking garage politics. My name's Lee Perry, and we have a very special guest who's also a dear friend, Lindsay Synder. Lindsay is the newly elected chair of the Orange County Democratic Progressive Caucus, and she works with Orlando 5051, trying to be a liaison between folks who go to a protest and maybe mobilize around ICE raids, but really try to bring them back into the fold of politics where maybe they've felt a little burnt out by politics lately. She really wants to help create a grassroots movement around endorsed candidates of 5051 who are anti-ICE and pro-immigration reform, who are on the ground with immigrant rights groups. I really appreciate this conversation because I got to talk a little bit deeper to my dear friend Lindsay and learn about her path in and out of homelessness as she was trying to build her life from scratch during hard times, and how she went from not being political to getting really deeply involved because of her love for the environment, because of her fear for the future, but also because the Black Lives Matter movement made her feel like she should really be doing more. So here's my conversation with Lindsay. So there's many people that come on this podcast that I say are special, but there's only one person that I think has been my ride or die in this political work, and it's Lindsay Synder right here. How you doing?
I'm all right. I'm good. Happy to be here.
When I say ride or die, it's like, God, it's so refreshing that you show up earlier than I do at an event. Mm-hmm. And actually, Natalie came on the podcast. Natalie's like this too. It's very special where you show up early. You've already done a ton of labor. You've already set up the chairs. You already set up everything at a political event. And I don't have to ask. Mm-mm. You just do it out of your own mind, out of your own heart, and you're proactive. But obviously, it takes a while for people to get to that point in their journey where they're going to be that involved with politics that they just take the wheel and drive. So today we're going to get into who you are and where you're from.
Okay.
Where were you born?
I was born in Indianapolis, Indiana, and my parents picked everything up after, I guess there was a big blizzard in the summer or in the winter of 78, and my dad said, I'm done. And so they moved to Florida. And we lived in St. Pete until I was about 9 years old. And then we moved to Mount Dora. And Mount Dora is basically where my formative years were. So elementary school, middle school, high school. I graduated from Mount Dora High School in 97.
I love Mount Dora. I'm sure there's some underbelly sides of Mount Dora, but at least the Mount Dora that I've seen that's probably now gentrified as hell. But when I was growing up, it looked like this cute little spot with boutiques and, little tourist corridors.
So I remember Mount Dora when all those buildings were empty.
Really?
And yeah, all of that was empty. And then they came through and they did a really good job, actually. They gave a lot of the surrounding homeowners loans to revamp their houses and stuff, because those are old Florida homes, right? And they put, I think it's called Main Street Realty. They bought a lot of it, and they've done amazing work. They really have. And they have the Southeast, one of the oldest, Lakeside Inn is one of the oldest inns in the country. I worked there for a little bit.
Cool.
Yeah.
So growing up, were you born into a family that was involved in politics, or how did you eventually build up to that?
No. So my parents were liberal Democrats. And my grandparents were, if they were still alive, would be hardcore MAGA. They were big time Rush Limbaugh, Fox News, all that stuff. So politics didn't get talked about a lot because it would be a fight. But I was raised Democrats are good, Republicans are bad. But nobody was really involved. It was just go out and vote Democrat, and that was it.
Mm-hmm. And through your life, it sounded like you were, just job to job, like everyone in that kind of early part of their lives. And then you had mentioned that you actually found yourself homeless. How did you get into that situation?
So we had, my husband and I I started out as a district manager for a newspaper distribution company that distributed the Orlando Sentinel. And then at a certain point in time, the owner died, and it kind of fell into my hands, and the Orlando Sentinel offered me an opportunity to take over as kind of they called it a super contractor. So my husband and I had a multi-million-dollar contract with the Orlando Sentinel. We called it UAN, Up All Night. because you had to be up all night. And so we had that, and we had about 22 subcontractors that worked for us. And newspaper was already a dying business at that point. And this was like the early 2010s.
Right.
And we knew that. We had a plan to get out, but we didn't plan well enough. And so, the Orlando Sentinels called us in. They said, hey, you have an hour to clean out your office. We're done. We're canceling your contract. So we were the middleman. They needed to save money, right? So cut out the middleman. So we had a lot of money loaned out to our contractors because, if they break down or something happens to their vehicle, if they can't afford to fix it, then they can't run their route, which means we have to run the route. And if I'm already running a route or running 2 or 3 routes, I can't do that route as well. So, there was a 7-year period of time where it was like 365, 24 hours a day, just nonstop. And so we weren't prepared. We lost everything. We lost the house. We lost the cars. We lost everything. So everybody kept saying, we were already estranged from my parents for, a multitude of reasons. And everybody said, go to Orlando. Go to Orlando. It'll be more opportunities there. And this is like in 2010 or 11. So it was after the house bubble. So the economy wasn't that great. And so we came out to Orlando, and we were staying in one of the hotels here on Lee Road, Countryside Inn. And, we got on some food assistance and things like that. Had a really hard time finding a job. And we spent a year in that hotel until, and they say coming from a small town, grew up in Mount Dora, I feel like I was very ignorant. I didn't really know the real world. And the things that I saw while living on Lee Road are just unimaginable.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have a vehicle or anything, so I had to walk to the Save-A-Lot to get my groceries. And people would honk at me. I'm like, why are people always honking at me? And it turns out if they honk at you, it's because they think you're a prostitute and they want to pick you up. And when I was told that, I was like, that's a thing? That really happens in real life? There was one time, me and my daughter, who at the time was 7, were walking to Save-A-Lot, and a guy stopped in the parking lot. He's like, hi. I'm like, hello. And he's like, you have a beautiful daughter. I was like, oh, thank you. I didn't think anything of it. He's like, how much? Exactly. And I was so, I regret so much. I was so shocked. I literally just started screaming. And I wish I'd had the frame of mind to have gotten his license plate. But that's the world. There's an underworld that people don't realize. They drive by every day. They don't understand the struggle. They call it the hotel loop. You go and stay at a hotel because you can't afford the deposits, and the credit checks, and all that stuff to get a place. And my family wouldn't help us, so we were just kind of stuck there. Mm-hmm. And so we kind of got in with the bad crowd. Some things happened, and I ended up getting arrested. All charges were dropped eventually, but at the time, it was kind of a misunderstanding. But at the time, I was facing 10 years in prison. My bond was $100,000. My kids had already moved back in with my parents. It was just, we were spiraling. And so I almost see that as a Godsmack, where I was on a really bad path, and the universe, God, whoever said, nope, Lindsay, you need to go cool out over here on 33rd Street for 30 days. And that's what I did. And then I was released on my own recognizance. All the charges were dropped, and I ended up moving back in with my parents in Mount Dora, and just kind of slowly worked my way back up. Mm-hmm. And, it's been a struggle ever since. So I didn't have the opportunity to really pay attention all that much, because I'm just trying to survive. Most of my life, I've just been trying to survive.
We're right down the street from that Lee Road Hotel. Uh-huh. And sometimes I'll go out and just pass out some McDonald's sandwiches in the morning or coffee. And there was a gentleman that was sleeping in a parking lot right in front of the Walmart right there. And I just pulled up and said, hey, sir, you hungry? What are you hungry for? You want a cup of coffee? He starts crying immediately. And he's like, I was living in a hotel. I had a heart attack. And when I was rushed to the emergency room, they threw everything out in my room. So I lost my ID. I've just been sleeping in a field because I was evicted, so I couldn't go back to my room, and I have no way to get another hotel. And he's like, I asked for an angel, and here comes Lee from Lee Road, and we're so quick to look past those stories and look past those people, and there are resources. Like I literally told him, I'm like, you're sleeping in a parking lot where there's a case manager who's working in the library right there, who can connect you to iDignity to get your ID back, who can connect you to a hot meal tonight, and a place to sleep. But he was not from this area. Similar situation. He was from a rural area where he had no walkable resources and just ended up sleeping in a field because he had nowhere else to go. And so those stories really resonate with so many others. But for people that are in slightly more privileged circumstances, they might drive by those individuals and just cast this judgment of like, they did something to deserve what they have, and think nothing past that.
Yeah. Anybody could lose their income and lose everything within I don't even know what the percentage is, but it's a pretty high percentage of Americans who've lost their income in 30 days. They're done. They're on the streets. And
Right.
if you don't have a strong family backing, and I don't have a strong family backing because of past trauma in my life and things that had come up when at 30 years old, I had a complete nervous breakdown and a lot of things resurfaced. And when we tried to talk to my family about it, they wouldn't acknowledge it. They wouldn't accept it. And so, it got to the point where my therapist was like, if they're causing more harm than good, you need to cut it out. And so during that period where I'm already working 24/7, I'm going through a literal mental breakdown. I have 2 small children and just trying to make ends meet. And then I lose everything. Mm-hmm. So it's a series of unfortunate events. It really is that led us to that place. And, we made the best of it. We cooked a full Thanksgiving dinner in a hotel room with a little tiny oven. We have moments. We tried to make it as normal as we could for the kids. I mean, luckily Countryside had a pool. So for my daughter, it was fantastic. I got a job at a little boutique over in College Park, and I would ride my bike there every day, 3 miles there and 3 miles back. And it was, it was interesting because I would ride my bike through Dubs Dread and that whole area right there. And then you're on College Park and,
completely different world.
2 different worlds from Lee Road to Edgewater, just completely. It was like going through a void from one to the other, Mm-hmm. And we did the best we could to make it as normal as we could. But, at a certain point, it started going downhill. And at a certain point, I don't know, I had an intuition that I need to send my kids back to my parents. And I did. And I'm thankful that I did, because they didn't have to deal with what happened next with me getting arrested and stuff. So, but yeah, it's really hard, and people don't understand how hard it is. And I'm lucky because when I was released from jail, I was able to go live back with my parents. Mm-hmm. And I was able to go get a job bartending, and John worked in the kitchen, and we worked our way up and got very lucky, and he got a job, working on I-4, and we got into the industry we're in now, and we've worked our way back up. We were very, very, very lucky. And we realized very early on in our industry that if you hustle, mm-hmm. you can work your way up. And that's just what we've done. But it's just been hustle. Nonstop hustle. And
you, despite the challenges with your parents, you still had some semblance of a safety net. Yeah. Someone, and I think that's really, a circumstance that's rare, mm-hmm. because, with me, my dad was extremely abusive and my mom was an addict. I can't say that I wouldn't have a safety net, because I have aunts that are basically moms. And I had a grandma that was basically more than a mom. She was everything. But I mean, right now in my life, no one could be that safety net for me in this point. And if I did hit rock bottom, I don't think I would have the same level of support. And we're all just one natural disaster away, one, cancer diagnosis away from the brink.
Yeah.
And if you don't have some of those support networks, then it's a field in the middle of a Walmart parking lot. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that's all you've got, And I will say, some of the times that I lived in the projects where my mom at the time, we had nothing. Those were some of the best moments that I've ever had, because sometimes there's some level of honesty that you don't get when you're shopping for, Black Friday at a mall for the holidays. You don't get that enrichment you get when you're cooking a meal together as a family, even if it's in a hotel room. My mom, we would get, I didn't have furniture, so we would get milk crates, and she would let me paint them and put stickers on them to decorate them. And that's what I would fold my underwear and stuff and fold it in nice and neat in the closet. So we could have our own little spot. And like, I had a sense of pride over those milk cart like dressers. But when my family would come over and visit, they would be shocked that those are the conditions I'm living in. But I was proud to show it off, because as a kid, I was able to be creative and make my own dresser, basically, in my mind. Those are fond moments that I hold now, because now if you give me 25 cents, I can find a way to make it $1.
Yeah, I appreciate. Yeah, I am a thrifter. I am a recycler. I'm a use everything. I'm a pick that up off the side of the road. I don't know what I need it for, but I need that. I'm a clearance girl. That's just the way it is. I make every dollar stretch as far as I possibly
can. You hear that, Ernest? There's other people like me picking up things on the side of the road.
I have so many things. Most of my house is furnished by that.
My kitchen table is from some college kids were moving out of their dorm and they were throwing it away. So, I think that sense of resiliency really feeds into your work ethic, because it's very evident that you have an incredible work ethic. I mean, you show up to everything. You're always early. You're always like, I'll do it. And this is a time where in politics, so many people are burnt out just from looking at the news, not even being active. So how did you go from this hard splash of ice water to the face moment to rolling up your sleeves and now being like a political force field?
I would say that when the George Floyd murder happened, wow, that shook me. That really, really shook me. We were still living in Jacksonville then, and I was just like, this is crazy. And that's when I really started to understand words like white privilege, anti-racist. Like, I never felt I was a racist person. My parents were racist people, but I don't think we were ever anti-racist. One of the big light bulb moments for me was when we used to, back in the 90s, we would say wigger. And that was us making fun of the white kids, trying to be like the white or the black kids. And it wasn't necessarily a derogatory thing toward the black kids. It was more like, how dare you try to take their thing? That's their thing. And that like light bulb moment popped in my head like, holy crap, that was incredibly racist. And we had no clue. We had no idea. So I read like, how to be an anti-racist, stand from the beginning, things like that. And when all like the Black Lives Matter protests were going on, I wanted to go. I did. I wanted to so badly, but I was afraid to. Or like I was afraid to for safety reasons. And I was also like, they don't want a middle-aged white lady there. Like they don't want me there. So I didn't go because I was afraid. I let fear dictate my decisions. And I've always regretted that moment. And so in 2024, after, the January 16th, of course, I kind of paid attention to all that stuff, right? But when Kamala announced that she was running, because I was really depressed, like, God, why is Joe Biden doing this to us?
Right.
What is happening? So I was paying a little bit of attention. Oh, I must go back and say that, like, environmentally, climate change has always been something close to my heart. And even before the George Floyd murder, we had already decided to become pescatarian for climate change reasons. We gave up meat, and now we're full vegan because of that. And so that was also something I was watching. So my algorithm was like, vegan recipes, climate issues, plastic pollution, gardening, things, sustainability, things like that. But then Kamala decides to run, and I'm like, I don't know. I just felt like, okay, I really didn't know anything about her, really. I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to her, but I'm like, this is something, right? And so I watched the DNC, and Michelle Obama said, do something. And it was like being the pastor, or being at church and the pastor going, whatever his service was. And it was like, for people who've gone to church, they know this, the pastor moment. You almost, when you go to church, you want that moment. You like want the pastor, whatever he's talking about, to be that message to you. Like it's the shining light on you. It's Jesus' light on you. And that was what Michelle Obama saying, do something, meant to me. Like it hit me hard. Like, I don't know what to do, but I got to do something. And so I think I donated to the DNC. And once you donate.
Oh my God, you're on the list.
You're on the list.
You're on the text chain.
And so I think the first event I went to was the debate, Coconuts for Kamala.
Oh yeah.
At Grape or at
Twisted Handle.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was the first I went to by myself. Completely like, out of my comfort zone. Like I've been isolated my entire adult life. I have not had like girlfriends. I have not like had like friends. It's just been me, my husband, and my kids hustling. That's it. No other community but that. But I just, okay, I'm gonna go do this thing, right? So I go and I do that. And I remember seeing you. I didn't get to really meet you, but you were there, doing your Lee Perry thing that you do. And I sat down with like
indoctrinating the woke.
Exactly. I sat down with these ladies and we did like the bingo thing or whatever, and it was cool, and I was really actually surprised at myself. I just put myself out there and I just kept showing up. I did a canvas with Anna Escamani and Kelly Semrad, and like actually spoke to them. Like that was really what was kind of mind blowing, is that like you can be there in the room with these people, these elected officials and these candidates, like they're real people. I did a postcard party and like Matt G was there for Yes on 4. Kelly Semrad sat next to me and we're writing a postcard for this congressman in California, which honestly, I don't even know if he won or not, but like it was just conversation and talking, and I just kept showing up. And then, election day, I spent 12 hours at the polls doing poll grading and handing out the voter guides, 12 hours. And then we had the DEC party and like, we realized what was happening, and it was,
oh my God,
it was a bad night.
I mean, I was with Kelly when she won, so
that was
like
amazing.
Buzzing.
Yeah.
And then like I went home and I was like crash landed, off of a high. But
yeah,
I really enjoyed. Also, I think I did also 12 or so hours of that poll greeting, and it's really rare that a party has the infrastructure to do that, which is why I think you getting involved was at a very specific time when Orange County's Democratic Party was kind of building a foundation that hadn't been there or as strong for a long time. And you get on this like wave of work that's being done that like other DECs across the state don't have. So, I mean, that just proves to you that a little bit of investment in that structure can bring people in where they're at and like get them on that path for easy ways to get involved and build community around politics. And it's funny too, because I was planning all those meetings, like the Coconuts for Kamala events, and it never feels like enough. Like even when you're doing tons of stuff, hearing stories like that are really the only thing that makes you feel like it was worth it. Because when you do all these events, you think like, are we talking to the same people? Are we even getting out there? Are we even recruiting anyone? Are we even building a sense of community? And then you hear someone who you dip their toes in for the first time because they saw that meeting. And then you realize like, yeah, this is why we do this.
That's, yeah.
It
matters. I get that now. I totally get that perspective now. But back then, like, I think I also went to like an ice cream social for the Environmental Caucus. And of course, the first thing I joined or was interested in was the Environmental Caucus, because that was like my number one thing. And I knew deep down in my soul that if Trump got elected, the environment was totally effed. Like totally. Right. All of it was just going away. Every little inch that we had gained was going to be gone. Yeah. And I'm like, that was probably my biggest driving factor for wanting Trump not to be elected. I didn't even know what I didn't know. Like there's so much I know now that I didn't even know then how bad he is. But that was the biggest catalyst for me, like not wanting him getting elected.
Yeah. I mean, the environment is always the last thing on people's radar because they're having such a hard time meeting their basic needs. It takes somebody who's aware and educated and, I mean, willing to open their eyes and see how everything's connected. But I mean, if you're barely able to like feed your kids, you know, recycling, composting, gardening, those things are like kind of on the back burner. Mm-hmm. And climate change is such a big problem that it's like somebody else's problem. Mm-hmm. You know, the multi-billionaires or the corporations or, you know, the government. But you still made time for it in your life. You still made time to figure out a way to put those puzzle pieces together so that you can like live your life and be an environmentalist and make changes to slowly reduce your emissions through your eating behavior.
Yeah.
So you brought up your involvement with the church. I'm curious what that experience was like, because I've heard almost everybody that's been on the podcast has had some interaction with faith, some of which has been good, some of which has been bad. So I'm curious to hear what your past has been.
So my spiritual gift is being a helper. I would say my love language is acts of service. And so you say that I'm a very hard worker. And that goes for anything I feel passionate about. So during that time in my early 30s, when I had a literal mental breakdown and I was Baker acted, and I was going through therapy and a lot of things were going on. And my therapist says, hey, you should explore spirituality. He doesn't say necessarily that it has to be Christianity, but whatever. You just probably should explore something like this. And after that visit, I came home and I was telling my neighbor about it. And she's like, oh, you should come with me to church. And so I went with her to church, and it was the evangelical church. And within 5 minutes, you know, the music, all that, I'm like, oh, you know, I'm totally in. Like, I'm bawling my eyes out. It's just everything. So within like 6 months, I did an altar call to be saved, and then I was baptized. And, you know, so I spent some time in the church, and the same way that I dive and put my whole self into politics, I did that for the church. You know, I gave, I served so much, because I didn't have a lot of money to give. So I did a lot of serving. You know, I would do like the children's church. I would do, you know, we did Celebrate Recovery stuff. My kids volunteered. We were all in it. And, you know, between that home church that we started at, and then when we moved, we tried to find some other churches. At a certain point in time, something had happened in our life where I needed the church's intervention. I needed the church's help. My goddaughter, who had been living with us for 6 years, was about to make some really bad decision, and she was not hearing it from us. And I begged my old home church that I originally got saved. I begged my new church that I was going to. I begged everybody. I called. I went on Facebook even and said, please, somebody help us. Oh, we'll pray for you. We're going to pray for you. We're going to pray for you. We're going to pray for you. Well, she's no longer in my life. She went with this person, fresh out of recovery, and I don't know. Like, she just left our life, and nobody came through. Nobody would help us. And I was just like, what? You know, why? Where were you? We needed you. Like, we needed you badly. And they weren't there. They were not there at all. And so, you know, thoughts and prayers really kind of pisses me off, because I'm an action person, and I needed action. I needed intervention.
Right.
And they wanted action from me, and I gave it to them. I gave it to them every Sunday. I gave it to them all day on Sunday. I gave it to them on Wednesdays. I gave my kids to them. I gave it all to them. And so after a while, I became pretty disillusioned with the church, and I stopped going. I haven't fully given up my relationship with Jesus, because he was there for me in a time when I really needed him. But the church itself has just completely disappointed me. And then you see it now with, like, you know, and now that I'm more woke, and I've seen the documentaries, and I understand, you know, the evangelical movement, and I understand the white nationalist movement and the Christian nationalist movement a lot more. Excuse me. I can see what they do, you know, serve, give, join. And they just keep you constantly doing, and constantly making you feel like you're not doing enough. So you're constantly doing. I can look back at it and with my perspective now and see how they run, how they work, how the whole thing goes. I get it. They take you when you're emotionally broken and you need something, and they give you that thing, they give you that community, but that community comes at a cost, and it comes at a price, not a cost, a price. And they want you to constantly give, serve, 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 join, join, join.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not here for it anymore. There are some pastors, some really progressive Christian leaders out there that I follow on Instagram and stuff that are doing some really good stuff. You know, I'm really, really impressed by James Tallarico.
Mm-hmm.
Very impressed by James Tallarico. But I'm done with the church. Just done.
And just to be slightly poking at that, Democrats do the same thing. I get so frustrated because what do we actually want from structures, from systems like a church, like a political system? We want to know that we have that sense of community that's ready to come to our aid when we need it. We know that when there's acts of violence, that there's going to be mobilizations against it. We know that what we want is that tribal feeling of, I need somebody to watch my kids so I can go and take care of some, that sense of like community, but deeper. Like we say sense of community because we want to like be able to like share and give, but deeper than that, like family, extended family. And the church sometimes can echo that and can make you feel like that's what it is. But there's got to be follow through in those instances. And I think when it comes to a political standpoint in a political party, the Democratic Party has lost its way in understanding that that's an important piece, is the follow through. Mm-hmm. It's our responsibility to make sure that if you are a Democrat, we've got your back and we're going to have that follow through. Instead, it's very much looked at like a chess game. What tactics can I use? And many times it's, you got to volunteer, you got to knock on doors, you got to come to this next thing, become a precinct captain. And it can be very exploitative to people who get into a system that really just want to feel a sense of themselves in their political leadership. Mm-hmm. People do tie their identity to how they vote because those policies can be very much the differences between Republican policies and Democratic policies are like, these are the policies of the people who care about other people versus the policies of people who want to see harm brought upon marginalized communities, which would be the Republicans in this instance. And so like people form their identity in politics and they want to feel taken care of by their party. But the party structure is very much like, you and I have seen it in the environmental caucus and in the progressive caucus where like, if you're not knocking doors relentlessly in every single event that you do, there's like judgment that you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. And that frustrates me because if you went to just a canvas right off the front and not like a networking, people building place, I would assume that it wouldn't be as palatable if you just jump right into labor.
Yeah.
You got to build community first.
Yeah. So I did that in the beginning. I did a couple canvases for Kamala and I didn't know what the heck I was doing, but that was like the thing they kept saying. So I'm like, oh, I guess that's the thing I'm supposed to do. Besides don't answer to canvas or phone bank, which I was never, ever going to phone bank. I have PTSD from doing telemarketing when I was a teenager. I'm never, ever going to phone bank. God bless the phone makers. You're a rare breed. We love you. But so I did a couple canvases. It was miserable. I hated it. It was weird, awkward. I don't know. But like, we had one or two really good conversations. It was the people that I met and got to talk to walking through the neighborhoods. That was really cool. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't really start feeling like I found my community until Orlando 5051. Mm-hmm. And like it has been a very organic thing, that group. It has been chaos. It's been, this, that, and the other, but it's been a community that has grown and I've grown with it. And, it is a true community where we are constantly looking for coalition and we're constantly trying to make every voice heard and we are constantly trying to serve and meet people where they are and protect the vulnerable communities. and provide for the vulnerable communities and educate people and give people action and help them learn and grow and protest and everything else. And that alongside, I've grown from that and I've grown in the Democratic Party.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I've met so many incredible people within the Democratic Party,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not super impressed with the Democratic Party.
Right.
And the more I learn, the more going back to my parents said, Democrats are good, Republicans are bad. I mean, right when I first started getting involved, and I was doing a lot of reposting Democratic talking points and talking heads on social media. And I had someone call me out on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Just straight. I don't remember what my post was, but he was he started bringing up Congo and Palestine and murder and all these things and genocide. I'm like, instead of being F you, why are you? I was like, hold on. Whoa, what you're saying is really serious. And I want to understand. I don't understand what you're talking about. Can you please inform me? And so he started messaging me some things. And that's when I learned about Palestine. I didn't know anything about Palestine. I had no clue. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And I don't think anyone has clean hands when it comes to Palestine on either side of the parties.
Nope. No, they do not. And that was a big eye opener for me. That really was. And so, keep learning. And I've continued to learn. And, I've met some really, really, really left. And I've met some middle left. And I really think that the Democratic Party is messing up by staying so middle.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we, I don't even know why we're trying to mess with Republicans at all or moderates or whatever. There's a whole group of people over here that want to be represented, that don't trust the Democratic Party, that are out there doing work. There are groups doing a lot of work, but they're having to go and talk at county commission meetings and talk at city hall meetings and go to Tallahassee and do all that stuff. When if we could just get candidates that would represent them elected, that would actually do the job and represent them, they wouldn't have to do that much work.
Right.
But they have to constantly work because the Democrats don't do what they say they're going to do.
I look at the political spectrum like a 3-circle Venn diagram. People want to say it's left and right. But there's so many other layers when you look at the 3-way Venn diagram. And I think when it comes to people who want to mobilize to go and do an ICE watch, if people want to do mutual aid for immigrants that are being detained, there's overlap with what the Democrats want to do, because I think ultimately they both want representation. It's just that the mechanism and the tactics are with the Democratic Party to get Dems elected at all costs, not to get Dems elected with a particular agenda. And that's where we lose some of those people, because there is no way to hold a fire, to different parts of our agenda and say you have to do one or the other in order to be considered a Democrat. Basically, Republicans can be running as Democrats and we wouldn't even be able to call them out.
Well, isn't that already happening?
It's happening right now in our community. 50-51's mobilizing to a predominantly, overwhelmingly supermajority of a Democratic board and begging, and not necessarily making as much movement and traction as they could if they had a 100% board of Democrats that were aware and plugged in and in coalition with them.
Yeah.
So we have to just emphasize that there is a whole part of this far left leaning demographic that wants political power, but they don't want to do it in the way that the Dems are organizing it. Mm-hmm.
It's been a real struggle convincing people to support even progressive Democrats,
right,
because they're still Democrats.
Right.
But I understand, as you understand, that we are still in a 2-party system here, and we have to go with what we have right now. And we're literally fighting fascism. We were literally fighting fascism. So we have to make a stand right now, but we have some really, really good candidates and really, really good opportunities to do that. I just have to, like, my whole purpose in life is to convince this whole side of left that these people are worth their vote.
Mm-hmm.
And not only worth their vote, but like I have to convince this whole entire side that your vote actually matters.
Right.
And that's with, I don't know how many years, because I'm just now learning all this. Like, how long have they felt? Like, how long period of time has it shown? Like, does our vote? I didn't used to think my vote mattered. My kids still don't think their vote mattered. That's one of my biggest whys is showing them that individual actions do matter.
Mm-hmm.
Your individual actions brought me here. My individual actions have brought others here, and so on and so forth. And that's how a movement is born, by individual actions.
But how a movement is kept, in my opinion, is those days when you were at your hardest point, where you were turning to the church and you weren't getting anywhere. I believe that the structure of the Democratic Party should have a built-in mechanism of community building and coalition that it seems like 50-51 is trying to fill the gaps of.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're doing great. Being a part of many orgs as I am now and seeing some things over the past, I don't know, year and a half or so, almost 2 years, I guess. Our volunteer retention rate is like 10 times more
100%.
than in any of the caucuses that I'm a part of,
Mm-hmm.
because we give people purpose and we empower people. You know, it's like I was a protest mom. I was just showed up with waters and handed out waters. And that's just organically, I showed up and it felt like that was the thing I could do. And then it was like, we showed up with a clipboard and I was getting volunteer signups. And then, okay, so we need a medic because this one lady got sick one day. We need medics. We need de-escalation because there's YouTube guys showing up. And then, you know, the Progress Hub started. And then we realized, you know, we have people that are directly contacted by directly impacted. And we realized that this mutual aid thing needed to happen. And man, that was my heart and soul last year. And it has gotten to the point where like it just runs and it's beautiful. Like
Mm-hmm.
every week we have just hundreds of dollars worth of food donated and goods donated that we give to directly impacted. We're working on a thing we're calling the Lindsay's list,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like an Angie's list where they provide services and we provide payment for those services so people can feel empowered and provide for their families, especially the farm workers who were hit so hard by the freezes and lost their jobs because the crops were ruined. And, you know, so I knew coming into 2026 that I really wanted to focus on getting progressive candidates elected. But that was only because I learned what a progressive Democrat is and that there was such a thing as a progressive Democrat. And when I went to the interest meeting and I'm like, oh, I'm on board, sign me up. I'll be the secretary. I think I didn't understand. I was like, I'll be the secretary because I was already the secretary of the Environmental Caucus,
Mm-hmm.
which in this whole thing, I forgot I need to mention that I shut all my social media and everything off after the election of Donald Trump for like the rest of 2024. And then in January 2025, you texted me and you're like, hey, I think you could really do a leadership position. You should come out to my meeting. And so I came out and we were at the Panera Bread. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? I could do this. I could be a treasurer or a secretary, whatever you need, you know, and it just kind of grew from there. And so and I tell everybody this story, like I am here today doing this, wherever I am, whatever I'm doing, because of you.
She's trying to make me cry on camera, you guys. She's trying to get blackmail on me.
That is the truth. And I meant to say that earlier. That's a huge part of my story. It really is, because I was so upset because I had never cared that much.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you care that much, it's hard. Those defeats are like serious. I mean, it hurt.
I don't think I've done a podcast without crying at this point. Well, I mean, the thing is that you signed on the form.
Yeah.
I didn't make you sign up on that form.
Mm-mm.
So the courage that it took to put yourself out there to sign up on the form. I always tell people my strongest attribute is that I just have follow through.
Yeah.
Somebody signs up on a form, you're going to get a text.
Or an email, or 3, or 10.
And you know, sometimes it feels like you're emailing into a void of no responses. But once in a while, you fish out someone who's like, I can do one little task for this week, and that's all I have capacity to do. And you're like, okay, great. And then you find that when you're just like giving people those breadcrumbs into getting onboarded into something that they want to do it. But it goes deeper than that because, you know, I build relationships with people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that in politics, you know, I've been personally called out for, is that like, I want to build community more than I want to win elections.
Yeah.
And when people hear that, they get shocked because what's the point of winning an election if the people who are sitting in those seats don't give a shit about the hundreds of people that come out to give public comment and they look them in the eye and they don't see their humanity?
Mm-hmm.
So I like to create spaces where you start with the humanity. And if you just so happen to get a candidate to come out or to be born from that coalition, then you're one step towards getting them elected into a space where they can really actually represent people. And the Democratic Party, I believe, has an issue with going slow enough. Now, mind you, to give them credit, money is tight and we're up against billions. We're up against billions of dollars, not just in the Republican Party that has just succumbed to corruption, but also in the Democratic Party, where the only way they think they can play is to get the funds to pay into the system to get elected and to pay the consultants and to do all the things that they've been doing for years. Mm-hmm. You know, Kamala Harris had $1 billion. And yet no one really felt like she was really speaking to their direct needs, right? And it goes back to your story of like, when I needed you the most, were you showing up for me in those darkest moments? And so, you know, I get criticized when I'm like, you know, I brought up wanting the OC Dems to do mutual aid. I brought up wanting to do more like extended stay hotel outreach or cleaning rooms for veterans that live in hotels. And I haven't really gotten the support. But I think we're in a moment where people are waking up, especially since these elections are swinging towards the more progressive side, because progressives are relinquished from that expectation to give back to the donors. And so they're free to do more peer-to-peer organizing.
Well, who are their donors mostly? Their donors, you know, are mostly people. They're
right.
people powered. They're people powered. So like, who, hold on, I lost my train of thought.
Like Maria-Lana Kinter, for example. She's doing bingo nights and she's doing clothing drives and she's doing mutual aid and she's like serving food out of pantries. And that's an example of someone who's running for office, but instead of like squeezing her volunteer base out of every single piece of energy just to get people to knock on doors so that they can save on a mailer, like she's trying to build community. And win or lose, she's setting an example of how people in that community should expect their leaders to act.
I've done a couple of small events with Maria-Lana, and she always shows up with, she always has the mindset of, how can I contribute to this? And, you know, we did the media day yesterday, and she was more concerned with helping the other candidates get their video and their stuff and giving advice to them than she even was about herself. Mm-hmm. So everything we do, like we just did a thing with Indivisible, and we were doing screen printings, and she was doing the screen printings for No Kings for everybody. So she comes, she has also that sense of service. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And she's great.
But you wanting to be the conduit between the 50-51 disenfranchised folks and then the people in the political party mm-hmm. who frankly might not vibe with the progressive vision, but as someone who's leading the Progressive Caucus now, you're kind of one foot in their door and one foot in the 50-51 door.
It's entirely why I joined the Progressive Caucus. 100% why, because I saw the need I saw where we want the same things. Like, we want this change. We want this horrible administration to stop. We want basic human rights, and progressive policies, what I've come to learn, honestly, are basic human rights. And like, we're so far behind in this country on these things. And it shouldn't be progressive at all. But yeah, when the interest thing came out, I really saw that this is where I could leverage the relationships and the reputation I've built with 5051, and I could show people that there is a way. And I was blessed with some incredible candidates who have stepped up locally, who were already working in the same space with me in 5051 and already fighting for immigrants and already doing incredible things. And, I really feel that activists make the best candidates. I mean, Kelly Samurai was an activist before she ran. And when Kelly gets up and speaks, everybody hears that. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat, because what she's saying is from the heart and it's for the betterment of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we have some incredible people running, and I want the Democratic Party to support these people and see that they're viable, actual candidates. And I want these people over here that don't trust the Democratic Party to see that, hey, these are our people, and they're going to do what we ask them to do. And if not, you know what? We're going to hold them accountable because we're paying attention, and we have to pay attention. We cannot become complacent any longer. We have to pay attention from here on out. The people that we elect, they work for us, and we have to pay attention to them, and we have to call them out when they don't do what's in our best interest.
Well, I mean, we can talk about what's at risk, right? So you guys do mutual aid for folks who are, I don't know, losing members of their family and not knowing where they are or how to navigate the system to find them.
Yeah.
We have a concentration camp being proposed in Lake Nona right here in our backyard. We have every single federal, state, and local policing agency being deputized for ICE. I just saw an article today that Senator Carlos Guillermo Smith posted about how Florida is the leading detention state, but it's all under the guise of like Florida Highway Patrol. You're not getting the videos like you're seeing in Minnesota because
it's sneaky.
It's happening in the middle of the night. They're pulling people over and just taking them. And then those families, where do they go? Yeah.
We have, since the stories that have come across our table lately, women who are pregnant, 9 months pregnant, and the breadwinner gets deported and they have no income, nothing for the baby. And we can put together a flyer and post it out, and it gets spread through our network. And I'm not kidding you. She has everything she needs for that baby within 24 or 48 hours. We have a young man right now, 14 years old, brilliant musical young man. And his father was deported 6 months ago. And his father was working a job. He was going through the process. He was going through the process of becoming legal, doing everything he was supposed to be doing. And the mother has cancer. And so her cancer treatments went from $200 a month to $1,600 a month because the father was deported. They lost the insurance. They have a mortgage they can't pay. The 14-year-old son, has been kind of like doing side jobs here and there, trying to keep it going. And it was only by accident that he happened to tell a friend who happened to be the child of somebody who works at Hope Community Center, so that his story got, within our purview. And, we've set up, we actually had him come and perform, and we're working on getting him gigs, and he's already been donated a bunch of money, and we're trying to help him pay for his mortgage. A 14-year-old should not have to have the weight of the world on them like that. And watching him perform last week, that was it for me. I just lost it. I was completely, it was so beautiful and so heartbreaking all at the same time. And he was so brave, and he shouldn't have to do that.
And for me, I love what our local Orange County Democratic Party has been able to do with the resources that we do not have. But it's deafening that we're not speaking to those stories because we are, again, so fixated on wanting to win. And I don't know if we just don't have the time, money, resources, or will of, the volunteer base that we have to kind of refocus on building the trust with people and showing up in spaces where we're needed the most so that we can get folks on our team. Because the fact that Hispanic families swung so far to the right when he was holding mass deportation signs at his rallies, you can't tell me you didn't see this coming.
don't understand.
You chose not to look at it because the Democrats were so weak. You chose to look our options in the eye and choose Trump, who had hateful vitriol coming out of his mouth. And that was more appealing than the Democrats. And I wish that we could combine the sentiments, because I feel like 50-51, because it's not politically motivated, people are more attracted to being a part of it. But if the Democrats could harness that sense of community mobilization, we could build that trust to get more actual real people elected.
I think what 50-51, especially Orlando, the branch, and from what I understand, the Orlando branch is singular to most branches, because 50-51 itself is kind of a movement. It's not an organization.
Right.
And we here in Orlando have kind of adopted it as an organization. And what we do is we build space for people. And we of course, we need volunteers, but it's more like, hey, what can you do?
Mm-hmm.
And people are allowed to decide what they can do. We don't go, we need this many volunteers by this date. We need this many this by this date. We need this many that by that date.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always been just open without huge expectations. We don't ask for money. If it is money, it goes directly. If we do ask for money, it's because it's going directly to a person
Mm-hmm.
or an organization or something like that. So it's just, there's not the pressure there. We give people an opportunity to help without expecting anything in return, but other than what they can do.
Well, I love that 50-51 really started organically from these mass protests,
Mm-hmm.
because historically authoritarian governments have been defeated by, I think it was 3.5% of a population mobilizing into protests. And so that kind of ignited this 50-51 movement. But people say all the time, like, protests don't do anything. Oh, I hope you have your pretty sign decorated. What is it going to do? But from your story, I mean, you were watching protests happen in 2020 with Black Lives Matter, feeling like I should be doing more. And then it ignited you.
Yeah.
So March 28th, which we're shooting this way before we're posting it, but March 28th is No Kings.
Yeah.
What do you think we're going to get out of that? And what do protests do to help make a movement?
For one, for a lot of people, they give them an opportunity to feel community and feel like they're not alone, they're not crazy. So it's a huge outlet for people. And from what I understand, there's a lot of new timers coming for this one. Connection, community, an opportunity to just go rage and scream and write, like just let your energy out. And a lot of times you're going to get connected too. And you'll see it's not as scary as it seems. Like sometimes you look at protests, like you see what happened in Minneapolis stuff, and it looks really scary, right? But like, we work very hard to keep it safe. Like, it's super important. We have to keep it a peaceful movement. There have been opportunities where it could have gone the other way, and we've managed to keep it safe. And so from that, like, okay, they get to say, oh, I went and did this. And it's that small little action, that little bit of confidence. Oh, and you're going to leave a protest feeling better. You just are. Mm-hmm. And you're going to want more of that. And that's going to lead to more action and more action. Or maybe you'll tell a friend, and maybe next time they'll go to a protest and they'll see, okay, these people aren't crazy. They're not Antifa or whatever, scum, leftist, or whatever it is, And so we are all just normal people who are pissed off. I
mean, also the FOMO.
Yeah.
Which is really great.
That's
because
what I felt like a lot of.
You're tagging people, you're posting, you're sharing on stories. And if everyone has that, I mean, even some conservative uncle might be like, I see my nieces, I see my cousins all posting about what protests they went to, and I'm over here watching Fox News alone. It does slowly chisel away more and more. And I think people can use that as a conduit to connecting them to other things. Like, we've passed out flyers for the Progressive Caucus and the Environmental Caucus.
Oh, every org is out there. This will be the first one that I'm going to as the chair of the Progressive Caucus, and not even as just the chair of Progressive Caucus, but really this, because I also lead the Candidate Support Guild for 50-51, this need to get these candidates on the ballot. So I'm calling it the Clipboard Army. Mm-hmm. And I'm in contact with a lot of candidates, and I've got a big group of volunteers, and we're just going to be out there with clipboards and petitions. And I hope I would hope that every candidate that goes out there, whichever No Kings they go, they get all of their petitions signed, because there's no better atmosphere or opportunity for that than a No Kings event.
Yeah. I mean, as someone who runs candidates, it costs $5,000 to get on the ballot. And what a lot of corporate plugins do, Democrats and Republicans, is they just get their PAC money or get a donor to give them the funds that they need to file and qualify and not work hard to engage with the people. But the progressive candidates that are actually going to stand up against, DeSantis trying to implement these ICE raids all across and deputize all of our agencies, the candidates that will fight that, even in the face of potentially being removed or arrested or fined, those are going to be the people that need to get the petition signed to avoid that $5,000 filing fee.
Yeah, because $5,000 to them is like a ton of money.
Yeah.
So much money. And that's my biggest thing that I'm trying to do is to make people realize that if you want people power candidates and you don't want them to take corporate money, then they need people. They need your power.
And they're not going to be perfect.
No, they're not.
That's the one thing that I want to scream at the left for is like, yes, we want to hold them accountable. We want them to be better. We're living in our ancestors' dream. Like, there are more BIPOC progressive candidates in Congress in just the past 10 years than in like the entire history of the United States of America. So no, progress to the point where we're going to have full-throated, pro-Palestine, anti-genocide people. I'm not saying compromise, but what I'm saying is not everyone in every district is going to be able to absorb everything the left wants in one election cycle. We have to find the things that are important to us, help those candidates that will be full-throated on our issues across the finish line. And there will be a time where we do have to pick the better of two evils, because otherwise sitting home is what got us Trump. Sitting home, heaven forbid, with the midterms coming, could be the thing that makes us lose our election, our democracy in 2026. 2026 to me is the window of time that we have to save our country. And so many people want to fight with me about this because they want to put it out of their mind, the stakes. We have 6 months to save our democracy. And if we do not win Congress and give Congress a spine, and when I say win Congress, I mean people that will actually hold out and not compromise, we could be looking at North Korea as the United States.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think that this is just another election cycle. And maybe I would have been that person 2 years ago. I would have thought that, but I understand now that is absolutely not the truth. This is crucial. And that's what I'm trying so hard to make people see, is that how crucial this moment is right now. Right. Like, you have to vote. You have to get involved. You have to do whatever you can. And I'm not screaming. I used to get so angry and rage posts and all these things. And I don't do that anymore because it doesn't do any good. I do, and I share, and I keep doing something every day. I just keep doing something, and I share about it. And people are reaching out to me. I have some friends from Lake County that were part of that original church that I got saved at. And we have been talking a little bit here and there on Instagram, and they were very angry about the current state of things. And finally, they reached out to me today after a year and a half, and said, "Hey, I think I'm finally ready to get involved. Do you have any ideas?" And I'm like, oh boy, do I. Here you go. Here's a link for this. Here's a link for that. Here's a link for this.
And now you're indoctrinating more woke.
Yes. And it's great. And it's great. And they came to me. And that's like, going back to the church, that's what a true Christian is supposed to be. You're supposed to emulate Jesus and live like Jesus. And through that, people come to you and want to know about, why are you so happy? Why are you so peaceful?
There's nothing more godly than feeding families and kids.
There is nothing, absolutely nothing. It's that's the other thing, like going to a protest, donating to mutual aid. It's good for the soul. It's good for the soul. It helps you and it helps somebody else.
So you're running around, you're doing a ton of things. What are some things you do to replenish yourself, to like refill your cup?
At the moment, doing what I do refills my cup. I don't really have this is for me right now. This is the thing. I do have to be careful not to get myself overextended. But like things like my friend reaching out to me, or things like, connecting people or seeing a need and being able to reach out to somebody and connect somebody to help with them with their thing that they're doing. Those are the things that fills my cup right now.
Well, I mean, you still make time to work out and read books and watch documentaries. I mean, you still make time for you, which I really admire, because I look up to you in that way. I'm always like, man, she watched another documentary. How does she have the time to do that?
That's how I learn. I'm trying to learn.
How are you going to more events than me and you're doing more like book reading and, it's really impressive. And so,
community is another thing, like going to the Progress Hub and just sometimes I just sit back and watch everybody there together and they're learning a thing or they're doing a thing or somebody's speaking, and just watching that is really cool. Even sitting back at a protest and just seeing everybody there together, like seeing everybody fighting together, like when cool things happen in Portland or people did cool things in Minnesota or like the singing resistance thing. I can't wait to see that. Like that's going to fill my soul. Like I'm going to love that.
Oh, beautiful. So tell everyone how they can get plugged into the work.
There's several different ways. You can come to a protest.
March 28th.
March 28th, No Kings. It's the one. You can follow Orlando.5051 OC Progressives. We're a new group, but we are finally got our board together, and we've got some really cool things happening. And there are some really, really incredible candidates out there. And when we get the opportunity to endorse, I'm really looking forward to it and really shining a light on those candidates. But 5051 already has some candidates endorsed and more to come. Go to the Progress Hub. I have a campaign kickstart that we're doing on Tuesdays from 6 to 8 p.m. at Bookburn on South Street.
And the Progress Hub is every Thursday?
Every Thursday at the First Unitarian Church from 6 to 8 p.m. And let's see, what else is there?
They do like Ice Watch trainings, mutual aid, obviously. Lots of really awesome speakers. They had Jewish Voice for Peace there. You guys had like an iftar there. It was lots of really cool.
Orlando for Peace is there. PSL does classes there. DSA does stuff there. Anna Escamani just randomly popped in last week and spoke about some interesting legislative stuff. The Environmental Caucus always has a couple of events a month that we're doing. There's lots of ways to plug in. Hell, find me, Lindsay Do Something. I'm Lindsay Do Something. That's my thing. Lindsay Do Something on Facebook, Instagram. Come find me. I'll get you plugged in. It would be my honor to get you plugged in.
Awesome. Well, we'll definitely share those links. And if someone was watching who is that you watching protests and staying at home and being a little too scared to leave their home and get involved, what would you say to that person?
Just go. Just show up. Just try. Just go to this thing. Even if you stand in the back in the corner and just listen to people speak, just go. That's what I did at first. I was that person who just watched everybody. And now I'm that person that everybody comes up and asks questions at. So I didn't become that overnight. I just kept showing up and kept doing something. And it's been great. I've met some of the best friends I'll have for the rest of my life from doing this work.
And when you need us, we'll show up for you.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining. And please find Lindsay because she's ready to get you to do something. Have a good night, y'all.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you heard today, please comment, subscribe, and share. And visit organizingtovictory.com so that you can learn more about all the ways that we're going to be organizing this year. It is the most important election year of our lives. I know you hear that all the time, but we here at Organizing to Victory hope to not just talk about the issues, but to organize around the issues. So please share, subscribe, and follow us. And we'll see you on the next one. Thank you.